Yeah, it's on. Yeah. Okay. Hi, everybody. Oh, that was so nice. No one ever says hi back. What a great audience. And hello, virtual crowd. My name is Destiny. It's my pleasure to welcome you here to East City Bookshop today. Is this anyone's first time at the store? Could you just raise your hand? Oh my gosh. Wow. Well, huge round of applause to you. I hope it won't be your last. We have tons of great events like this one. You can always check out our website. It's up to date. You can see a lot of what we got going on there. But I would like to shout out that on April 2nd, we'll have Adib Quorum here for the breakup lists, which if you're a YA reader, probably up your alley. A few housekeeping items before we get started. If you could just please silence your cell phones right now, I would very much appreciate it. Restrooms are upstairs and past the registers and cards. So you can obviously make use of those if you need it. And we will have time for audience questions after the authors speak. And that includes our virtual audience. So we have our wonderful Maggie here who can take care of all of the questions that you might have there. Yeah. Oh my gosh. This audience rocks. A plus. Okay, and I think I got all the one more thing. Book clubs. We have tons of those. Wine and Angst is one I like to shout out for a crowd like this, for people 21 and over who still like reading YA and a little wine to go with it. So yeah, you can always check out our book clubs as well on our website. Those are also up to date. It's a fun time. It's a great way to make community, especially as an adult. I highly suggest it. All right, so I'm going to introduce both of our authors today. First up, we have Maika Moulite, who is a Miami native and the daughter of Haitian immigrants. Her acclaimed young adult novels, Dear Haiti, Love Elaine, which I told her I loved, One of the Good Ones, and the forthcoming The Summer I Ate the Rich, have been featured on NPR, in Essence magazine, and more. When she's not working on her next novel with her sister and co-author Maritza Moulite, she is sharpening her skills as a doctoral student at Howard University in the Department of Communication, Culture, and Media Studies. HU, you know. Yes. Yes, we do. Her research focuses on media representation and the ways that marginalized groups subvert stereotypical depictions through culture, which, if I had to do a degree, that sounds very interesting. The lady of the hour is Faridah Àbíké-Íyímídé, who is the instant New York Times international best-selling and award-winning author of Ace of Spades. She's an avid tea drinker, a collector of strange mugs, and a graduate from a university in the Scottish Highlands, where she received a bachelor's in English literature. She also has a master's in Shakespeare Studies from King's College London. I know. When she isn't spinning dark tales, Faridah can be found examining the deeper meanings in Disney Channel original movies. We should be friends. She's here today to talk about her twisty new YA thriller, Where Sleeping Girls Lie, which honestly had me at the edge of my seat and, much like her first book, is such an unexpected reflection of deep and profound themes. Please welcome both of our authors today. Hi, everyone. All right. So we are so excited to have you all today. We're going to hop right in, but I'll let you take it away.
Yes. So you guys, I'm Faridah. Hi.
I'm Maika.
You guys obviously sorted yourself before you came in, but I want to hear who's in what house and kind of see a number of like what house is basically the most popular. So I'm going to just ask the house name and you guys can shout, like, put your hand up. Okay. So who's in Hawking or Jemison House? No one here likes sports. Who's in Mendel or Curie? That's like the academia house. Oh, I love that. You guys are cool. And then there's Einstein and Franklin, which is the artsy people. And then there's my house, which is Turing or Seacole. Cool. A lot of cool people here. And actually, I'm going to ask you guys a question before we get started. Basically, you sorted yourself into houses today, and I'm going to ask a question every day during my tour. And basically, whoever like whichever house has the most people at the end that have answered the question correctly or in an interesting way, basically that house will get a special thing at the end. So yes, I'm going to ask you guys, if you could have tea with anyone, fictional or real, alive or dead, who would you choose and why? And the coolest answer, I think, will get the point. Don't be shy. Someone at the back. I think so. Oh gosh, that's such a good one. I love that. Yeah.
Related, I was going to choose Queen Elizabeth, but I'd also play.
I love that as well. I mean, actually, I shouldn't say that because I'm British, but anyone else? I feel like you guys should both get the point. Oh, go on.
Yeah.
I love her. Yeah, that's who I would choose as well. How about you? What would you choose?
So we had a very existential question or conversation back there. I would choose Marie Louise David. She was the keeping it royalty. She was the first and only queen of Haiti, because a lot of stuff happened in Haiti right now. I'm like, girl, tell me what really happened and how did we get here?
Well, thank you guys.
Yeah. All right. So we're gonna go ahead and hop into some questions, and then afterwards we'll open it up for any audience questions. So the first thing that I want to know is tell us about your inspiration for Where Sleeping Girls Lie, and how did you come up with this idea?
So a few things. I love Mean Girls. I love murder.
Yeah.
And so I was like, why don't I mix them together
Love
and
that.
create like a story that like celebrates that. And so I wanted to have the pitch I gave my publisher was what if the unfriendly black hotties from Mean Girls were the main characters? And so that's essentially what happened. Started writing it in 2020, which is a very awful year for a lot of reasons. And so it became a very dark story. It started kind of like fun in my head, but then it became quite dark just because of the nature of grieving a lot of people. I lost a lot of family members and the world being really awful at the time. And so, yeah, that's like what inspired it at first.
Yeah, definitely. I could see that. You definitely get the unfriendly black hotties vibe throughout this entire story. I don't want to give any spoilers, but I enjoyed it from the very beginning.
Thank you. And I'm going to ask you a question as well.
Okay.
So you write stories with your sister, Maritza.
Yes.
What's that like, writing a story with your sister? Do you guys fight a lot, or is it like a nice experience, would you say?
Yes. Oh my gosh, Maritza's not here to defend herself. So I would always make this joke. I'd be like, because I'm bald under here, so I'd be like, "Oh, I'm bald because she ripped all my hair out." she would be like, "Don't say that joke anymore." But it's honestly a very good process with us working together. We have very similar sensibilities, and so our rule of thumb when we're writing is that if we ever have a conflict, is whoever is most passionate about her point wins, because we feel that it will make the story that much more impactful. Because if you're only like, given a half-assed argument and you're like, this isn't going to help the story. But if you're like, no, we must keep this, you're like, okay, I'll go. But yeah, it's been really great. And writing is a very solitary act. So it's awesome when you have someone who can go through that with you. And then we argue about other things not related to books.
I love that.
Yeah. So your protagonist, Sade Hussein, she's so fleshed out, and so is the entire cast. From the very beginning, like I can see myself in this character, trying to figure out her way. What was your process like in creating Sade and the other characters? So many who are just so memorable, Baz, Persephone, August, like everybody kind of pops out. So what was that process like?
Yeah, so I love characters. I think that I'm not terrible anymore, but I used to be really bad at world building. I've had to work on that. But characters are my favorite thing in any story I'm reading and writing. And so I often will work on characters first. With Where Sleeping Girls Lie, I kind of asked myself what cast of characters I would want to see. And so I love the outsider, which is Sade. I love the funny best friend, which is Baz. I love like mystery characters. I love a love interest. There's several in this book.
Yes.
And so
That girl.
exactly, she is. Yeah, I was saying I got tagged in a review where people were saying that it was unrealistic for people to be pining after her this much. And I was like, oh no, I want her to be pined after,
Absolutely.
Black girls deserve to be pined after.
Correct.
So yeah.
Yes, love that. Yeah, we had some of this conversation in the back, but especially when you have in young adult novels, you don't always have like a black girl, dark-skinned black girl who's the main protagonist. And so to have people pining after you in a romantic sense where you're not, struggling for this person's affection or different things like that, it's so it matters, and I loved it. So yeah, she's that girl.
She is.
Okay, so I don't know if it was.
Oh yes, actually, I'll ask you a question.
Okay.
So with you, what comes first for you? Like, is it characters, world, or the story itself?
Oh, I think it depends on the book. So for me and Maritza's first book, Dear Haiti, Love Elaine, Elaine, very strange. We were like, this is the ancestors. But Elaine came to both of us very like fully fleshed out. Like we knew she was very cool. She had a great head of hair, like all of these things that we were not in high school and didn't have in high school. And we were just like, what would happen if this, daughter of Haitian immigrants who's so outspoken gets sent to Haiti, and this is her first time visiting, because like growing up, that was always like the threat. Like if you misbehave, you're like, oh, so continue faire des ordres, ma voyo Haiti. Like if you keep misbehaving, I'm sending you to Haiti. So we were like, what if that happened in real life? And then that's how that story happened. And then one of the good ones was definitely looking at things that were happening in the world and figuring out what would it be like for, this group of sisters to navigate just the legacy of racism in this country. So they're like very different in their thoughts, but yeah, it depends on the book. What about for you?
I think that the plot / the twist comes first for me, and then I kind of try and think of what characters would make sense or be interesting to follow in this context.
Mm-hmm. Yes. So Sade is homeschooled in Where Sleeping Girls Lie, which I think adds a very interesting element, because there are even some bits of slang that Sade was like, what does that mean? So did you always know that Sade would be homeschooled, or did that develop over time?
Yeah, I always knew she'll be homeschooled because I wanted her to be like the ultimate outsider in so many ways. She's coming into like this school that she has no idea what the culture of going to school is like. And so she's having to figure out so many things while murder is happening. And so yeah, I thought it'd be really interesting to have her have those like layers of things happening to her at once.
Yes, I love that.
And with you as well, your cover design is incredible. Like the covers that you have. I know a lot of people want to know the process of how book covers come to be. So what's that like for you guys? Do you guys get a lot of say in that, or is it very much you're given a cover and you're like, cool, and you move on?
Yes. So for our first two books, we were very type A. We're like, okay, we have a Pinterest board. We know what our character looks like. We know her hair, the hair products. Like we went granular. And so when our editor, because sometimes folks don't do this, but our editor was like, oh, do you all have anything in mind for what you would like to see on the cover? And we were like, do we? So we were able to give them that. And then for this most recent book, The Summer I Ate the Rich, which is with a different publisher, we've kind of just been like, relearning that process of trusting the person that you're working with. And it's been really cool. Like, there was a first version that we didn't understand what was happening. So we are like, hello, we love this very much. Thank you so much. Here are our thoughts. We still love working with you. Please don't hate us. Da, da, da. And they're like, okay. So there's definitely that fear of almost like, you don't know if you're allowed to say whether or not you like something or you don't. But we've been lucky in that way. And our agents and our agency has been really great in just advocating for us in that way. Yeah. But we have everything planned out. Even for The Summer I Ate the Rich, we're like, here's what the location is, here's the colors, and then they either listen or don't.
I want to see your Pinterest board.
Oh yeah, I'll show you. Oh, I guess this is my turn. Okay, so kind of shifting gears a little bit. When you were writing this story, Where Sleeping Girls Lie, it was also set in an academic setting, similar, I would say similar to Ace of Spades in the sense of that it is both academia, but one is a boarding school where the other is like you can go home at the end of the day. So what is it about academic settings or dark academia that draws you? And as someone, I'm a PhD student now, so I can get very dark in the academic world. So I want to know like what draws you to that?
So I never got to go to like a private or like a posh school when I was younger. And so it's almost like a fantasy for me. It's the closest I've gotten to writing fantasy. And my mom never let me go for obvious reasons. It's expensive. And so, yeah, that's why I'm so drawn to it. I think it's really cool. But also, as I got older, I realized there's a lot of messed up things that happen there. So I like to kind of unpack those in my stories.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I think that was like our dream too. We'd be like, oh, we'd like go and sleep at the school. And my mom is like, you have a home here. Like, why would you sleep away? Yeah.
Oh yes, my turn. So yeah, talking of like, stories and genre, what genre have you not written in yet and would love to, and why?
Oh yes. Immediately romance. Absolutely. I read a romance
Same.
novel every night. Yeah, okay. I read a romance novel every night. It might be the same one or across, a few days. But I love a good romance. Like we were talking about 7 Days in June briefly, which is
incredible. I just finished it. I cried.
yeah, so good. I love a second chance romance, although not in real life. Like in the book, I'm like, yes. But in real life, I'm like, no, girl, leave him, leave her, leave them. Don't do it. But I love romance, so I would totally do it. What would be your
Same. I mean, I'm kind of like writing a romance right now. I mean, it's coming out in June.
audible gasp?
But my mom, she loved romance growing up. Like she would always be reading a Mills and Boone novel, and so I feel like it was a matter of time. It was in my DNA at this point.
Yes, yeah. Also, same. We were talking about this. It's like the the immigrant mom guidebook. My mom's preferred were Western romances. So don't know how that happened. I'm also like a country girl. So with Beyonce bringing it back to, which is exciting. But yeah, no. So I love that. Okay. So speaking of relationships, segue. Okay. Right. So throughout Where Sleeping Girls Lie, Sade has a lot of relationships. Some of them are platonic, some of them are familial, romantic, wannabe romantic, because she's that girl. But you do a really good job of not raising one type of relationship higher than the rest. So was that intentional, and why did you go that route?
Yeah, so with a lot of YA, I feel like romance is often like the forefront of it. And I think that's cool because I love romance. But I think that when I was younger and even now, I really value my platonic relationships as much, more for me. But yeah, I wanted to make that also centered because I think that a lot of teenagers, the most harrowing things they go through are friendship breakups.
Yes.
And so it's important to validate that friends are just as important as like romantic interests. And so yeah, I like to have those platonic kind of relationships in all my stories. With Ace of Spades, it was Devon and Chiamaka. And now I have that with Sade and her little crew.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, friendship breakups, they hurt like
They
the
do,
other.
yeah.
Because the first thing you're like, best friends forever, and then you're like, this is not forever.
My next question is about your books and Haiti.
Yes.
So your books read like love letters to Haiti and being Haitian. Could you talk more about writing your culture into your stories and your identity, and how important it is to take up space in this way?
Yes. So growing up, our parents were like very strict, and they didn't allow us to watch TV during the weekdays. So we would read every book that we could get our hands on. And it was very rare. I think there was one time where there was a Haitian protagonist. And when my sister and I, Maritza, when we talk about this, like we thought of that book, the main character was a Haitian girl. But when we went and we reread it, she had a tiny part. But in our minds, we had magnified her in this way. And so it was really important for us to make sure that, when we're writing a story, even if the character isn't Haitian, we like slip in some type of Haitian ancestry, a nod to the food, somebody who's just like, oh, she dated somebody Haitian. It's like we're gonna add that in there, because it's important to see yourself reflected in the words that you read, the media that you consume. And like part of my PhD process is talking about the impact that it has in you centering yourself as the lead, not just in the book, but in your own life, and understanding that you don't have to have that rooted in your pain. Or if there is pain involved, it's not the only thing that's about you. Like you can still have joy. So yeah. And then also sometimes it feels like when you write about Haiti, it's almost like a fairy tale, because even in writing Dear Haiti, Love Elaine, like there were nods to what happened with the earthquake in 2012. And then, you get to today and it's almost like, would Elaine even be able to go to Haiti now? The answer would be no, unless her parents really hated her. She must have done something terrible. But I still have this hope for Haiti, and it's not even just a hope. It's like, as someone who absolutely has my roots here in the United States, but a part of me will always be in Haiti. It's like, how do I honor that? And also understanding that when the media talks about Haiti and the turmoil that's happening, it's very much happening in Port-au-Prince. But my family's in Okap, and we'll be like, what's going on? Is everything okay? And they're like, yeah, the chickens are chickening, the things are thinking like everything's fine, so it's really important for us to talk about things in like this larger context. I can ramble on. So I won't.
That's really beautiful. Thanks for sharing that.
Thank you. All right. So, we're kind of shifting gears again, but Where Sleeping Girls Lie is a mystery, right? It's like a slow burn thriller, if you will. There's like various parts. How do you go about laying the puzzle pieces that form the final picture that the reader has? Like, do you know once you start writing, oh, I have to leave this breadcrumb here, here, and here? Or is it when you're going back through the editing process that you add that? Like, what is that like? And do you use like a vision board? Like, what's the process?
So with Where Sleeping Girls Lie and also Ace of Spades and everything I write, I'm a very big planner. I think my Ace of Spades document was like 15,000 words just of like planning notes. And so
Marissa
yeah,
would love that.
I'm a big planner. I need to meet her.
Oh yeah.
And I almost have like every scene mapped out like from beginning to end, and it does change as I like edit and write and everything. But yeah, I love planning.
Yeah. When Maritza and I decided that we wanted to work together, I was very much a pantser. You know, I write by the seat of my pants. I let the spirit move me, which is a perfect way to never finish anything that you're working on. So in working with Maritza, she's very much like a plotter. And we've had to find this like middle ground. So our outlines will be 30, 40, 50 pages long before we've even gotten started. And then once we start writing, you know, then the spirit moves us because we have to like shift to get to point A to point B. So it's like a good mix of both. But the thriller aspect, you have to be so intentional.
Know everything.
Yes.
It's really hard otherwise.
Yes. And there's Morse code in here. I'm like, hold on, let me use a translator. Okay. And I don't know if
yes,
it's your
I
turn.
think it's my turn. Yeah.
Okay.
And then next is about your titles.
Yeah.
Your titles are amazing. They evoke such a strong image. I think your next book is called The Samurai Ate the Rich.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Yeah. How do you come up with your titles? Is it something that's like a joint effort or something that just kind of you stumble across accidentally and then you're like, oh yes.
Yes. So Maritza and I are actually terrible at titles. So for our first book, Dear Haiti Love Elaine, when we were on submission, we called it This Just In because we couldn't think of anything else. And Elaine has this like journalist sensibility and her mother is a journalist. But we got the title Dear Haiti Love Elaine because the assistant to our editor at the time, again, the ancestors were really speaking through that book. She went to sleep one night and she had a dream, I guess, and she woke up, texted herself something and emailed herself something, went back to sleep. And the next morning when she woke up, the title was Dear Haiti Love Elaine. Like that's what she texted herself. And I was like, you dreamt? That's amazing. So that's how we got the first title. The second title, we submitted this as untitled work because we couldn't figure out a title. And then our editor, again, she was really great at just like pulling in those pieces. And we had mentioned this idea of being one of the good ones and how it's harmful. And people think you have to talk a certain way, act a certain way, especially if you're Black, to be worthy of dignity in life. And so that's how that title stood out. And then for The Samurai Ate the Rich, that one was all Maritza. So I was like, girl, I'll keep you around. So yeah, she came up with that. What about for you? How do you come up with your titles?
Ace of Spades was like a mistake. I just kind of thought to myself, oh yeah, I'll just name it this for like the working title. But I'd already heard that in publishing, no title is like cemented until the sales team and everyone is like agreed with it.
Mhm.
So I was like, that's fine. I'll just do this title and then see what happens. But then as I was writing the book, it just became more apparent that this was such a title that really like spoke to what the book was trying to do. Like the Ace of Spades card could either be the lowest card in the deck or the highest card. The actual card itself is black and white.
Yes.
So many things
Layers.
about that. Exactly. So many layers. With Where Sleeping Girls Lie, actually, originally it was meant to be called Beautiful Liars. I wanted a Beyonce song as my title. But they didn't like that at my publisher. So they made me change it. And that's the story of that.
Okay, so you know, everyone here, you're getting like a preview because technically Where Sleeping Girls Lie debuts tomorrow in the US. So y'all are getting like a sneak peek. If you could have a reader leave with any like final thought after reading Where Sleeping Girls Lie, what would it be?
I think the final thought is kind of similar across my books, which is just to question everything and don't trust any institution and what they're saying. Yeah, I want teenagers to basically not believe adults all the time because I think adults are not believable people.
Oh, they're gonna be like, banned. Love it. I love that. Okay, so what's been the biggest change for you in going from like your debut to sophomore? Like how have you changed as an author?
Well, I wrote Ace of Spades when I was 18, 19, and now I'm 25.
Yeah.
And so I feel like I'm just such a different person from that version of myself that wrote that book. I think that I always say that she's almost dead now, but she isn't. She's still here, but I think that she was like very fearless, and so I had to learn how to be her again. Especially in the pandemic, I was so scared of so many things, so it took me a long time to get back to that. Another thing is that I obviously was writing My Sleeping Girls Lie after I already got a book deal, and so there was such a different process of writing something when people are waiting for it.
Yes.
With Ace of Spades, no one was waiting. I was writing it for myself in my dorm room, and no one cared, and so it's harder when people care because then you feel like you can disappoint anyone. But I think that I had to come to a point where I thought to myself that I had to write a story that would make me happy and hope that people stick around regardless of what happens.
Yes, and they definitely will. Don't worry.
Thank you. I think I'll ask you a question,
Yes.
actually. So my final question for you is about your next title, Samurai Ate the Rich. Could you talk more about it? And it's about zombies as well, which is amazing.
Yes.
Yeah. How did you come up with that? And what's the process of that, writing that and everything?
Yes. So The Samurai Ate the Rich is about 17-year-old Brielle Petitfou. And she is a zombie, but not in the sense of what we think about. So the zombie lore originated from Haiti, and it was essentially the fears of the enslaved African people worried about their enslavement continuing even in the afterlife. And so there was like, I think an American anthropologist who came to Haiti, learned about this because there are different no, I don't want to say potions, but basically mixtures, the tonics that you would give someone to make them a little like catatonic. They would get buried, their family would think they passed away, and then the person would just continue giving them this and keeping them just alive to do the work, but not alive to be sentient. And so this idea became the idea of the zombie mythos. And when we think about it in the States now and globally as well, it's about like consumerism and all of these different things. But Brielle is this Haitian American zombie. So she has like Haitian zombie sensibilities and American zombie sensibilities. And her family works for the very wealthy 1% of this fictional island in Miami. And she blames her family's hardship on this very wealthy family. And so she decides to use her special brand of zombie skills to enact revenge on these people. And so that's the idea for The Samurai Ate the Rich. It's a little different than what we've written before. I don't know how we became horror girls because I'm afraid of everything. But that's the idea between.
Sounds incredible. I want to read like an early copy or something.
Thank you. We're in I think copy edits now, so hopefully
so soon.
Yes, no, I'll just go ahead and
I'll be DMing you, yeah.
And then my final question for you, before we turn it over to the audience for questions, would be what's next for you on your author journey? Especially, you've had so much travel and have quite a bit left. So what's next?
So I have a book coming out with my best friend in June. It's called Four Reads and a Funeral, and wrote it with Adiba Jagadar, who is the author of The Henna Wars and Honey and Issues Guide to Fake Dating. And that's like a Muslim rom-com, enemies to lovers. And after that, I've got a bunch of like secret things. Trying to think what I can talk about. Well, actively, I'm working on a vampire book, like a Black vampire book. So I'm excited about that.
Love that. Yes, we're ready. All righty. Well, thank you everyone for your attention. And now I guess we'll open it up for any audience questions.
Oh yeah.
Hi, I'm Danielle. Did you have somebody in your life named Devon that you hated? Because that poor child really went through it. And my heart was crumbling and I was stressed. I'm still stressed thinking about it. And so when I go into this book, I also want to know, will I be similarly stressed out? Did you pick a character and you were just going to be like, you are going to suffer?
Short answer, yes.
Okay. Repeat the question for people online.
Oh yes. The question essentially was, do I have like a vendetta against anyone named Devon in real life because of how much he went through? Apologies for anyone who was like really protective of him and everything I put him through. But yeah, there's no one in real life. But yeah, so sorry. I'm happy he has a happy ending. But
she's like, yeah, for legal reasons.
Thanks for your question. Oh, sure.
What are some of the books that y'all have on your anticipated reads?
Oh my God. That's a good one.
Yes. Okay. The question is, what are some books on our anticipated reads list? Um, shameless plug. So I'm in an anthology called The Black Girl Survives in this one. Yes. And so I'm very excited about that. You know, it's not very often that you'll have like a horror novel and the black girl as the final girl gets to make it all the way through to the end. So yeah, very shameful plug, but
Actually, I think that both your next book and that is probably mine for this year, for sure. Yeah.
I didn't bear to say that.
Anyone else? I think I saw a hand at the back somewhere. Yes.
So I did go to boarding school and and so I'm saying private school. I haven't read this book yet, of course, but I did read Ace of Spades, and I'm surprised that you said you did not go to any private schools because some of the things in Ace of Spades, I was like, that's a secret. That's a crazy secret. And so I'm just anticipating that there's going to be a lot of accuracy in the boarding school aspect of City Bookshop. How did you like who's your in? How did you figure out?
Well, other than being obsessed with like boarding schools and everything, I think it was definitely my university experience. I grew up in a very diverse town in London. It's a town where everybody's mostly black and brown. My school was mostly African, Caribbean, South and East Asian. I think white people were like the minority. Like, I think you could like go days without seeing a white person at my school. Then I went to Scotland for university, and it was like completely flipped on its head. At universities, when I realized that I was working class, I didn't realize that how class was such a big deal until I got there. I was meeting Black rich people and people that I never thought like could even exist. And so, yeah, I think that's where it comes from, that experience of being traumatized.
That's so funny. I had a similar experience, like growing up, very like Caribbean heavy influence. And then I went to the University of Miami, but then I transferred to Florida State. And that's when that's when I was like, wow, there's a lot of white people out there. And it was just like such a it was a culture shock, you know. And I think part of it was like I had kind of just been like walking around in my life as myself, and then I went through periods of feeling othered in a way that I hadn't before.
Same.
And it was just like, whoa,
it's so weird, isn't
yeah,
it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I love what you said, like walking around as yourself. I never thought to question I was black or anything because in my town, I'm the normal one. And so, yeah, I'd go everywhere and I just see people that look like me. All the stores were just like, African food shops, Jamaican food shops and everything. Nothing was like, out of the ordinary for me. And so when I got to university, suddenly people were like tugging at my hair or like staring at me in class or asking the weirdest questions. And so, yeah, I finally started to feel like an alien and it made me feel like awful. So that's a lot of where my inspiration came from.
Yeah, I'm at Howard now. I'm screaming.
Yeah.
Oh, we have another one online and then we'll go over to you.
This is two parts, but any of your books have playlists? And also, which celebrity would you want to be in your like book adaptation?
That's a great question. Yes, I think both my books have playlists. Ace of Spades, the readers that had read Ace of Spades in the first couple of weeks, just sent me like music and I just like added it to a playlist. My Sleeping Girls Lie, I made one that was very short. Both are on Spotify. In terms of an actor to play the characters, I feel like someone new would be really good, I think, for Ace of Spades, someone that we haven't heard of before.
Yeah.
Or Where Sleeping Girls Lie.
Yeah. I Dear Eddie Love Elaine, I'm like, did we write that? I don't I think we have a playlist, but I can't remember. I know for one of the good ones, we definitely have a playlist because on our website we had like a mini podcast. We went all out. We had mini podcasts, all these things. So you can find the playlist online there. For Dear Haiti Love Elaine, I would be open to whoever would want to do that. I think the biggest thing is having characters who could pronounce the things in Creole. But for Elaine, her English would be, I would say, a little bit closer to her Creole would be closer to mine, where it's like you're speaking Creole, but depending on the day, it sounds like you're speaking English because the accent is just not where it needs to be. So I think that would allow for flexibility. And then for one of the good ones, there's an actress named Demi Singleton who I just really enjoy. We had an event with her one time and she's like, I love your book.
Oh, cool.
So yeah.
That's so cool.
Oh, and then we had a question again.
Hi.
So my first question, who would you say, what authors inspired your writing? And then two, in your respective genres, who would you say are canon for books?
That's great. I think for me, the person that's canon and also inspires me is definitely one of the people is Jason Reynolds. I think he's incredible. I want to be him. He's so talented. Who else is there? There's so many authors. I love Patrick Ness. He's incredible. David Levithan. I'm obsessed with him. I met him actually, and I think I scared him because I was freaking out. And he wrote like a lot of queer literature, and I think he was the first kind of person to write queer literature that I read from in the YA space. So yeah, those people.
Yes. For me, canon, definitely Edwidge Danticat. You know, the GOAT. Like I met her in real life and she knew who I was and she told other people about me and Maritza's book. One of my friends, she was with me and I was like, take the picture as well because I was sweating. I was nervous. But definitely Edwidge. And then Elizabeth Acevedo, like anything she writes, I just feel like it just really resonates with me. And yeah, I can go on, but I'll say those two for sure. I mentioned every time. Oh, and Evie Zaboy. Evie Zaboy really like took us under her wing. She was just like, "Oh, you're Haitian, okay." And that was it, which was really great. So yeah.
Anyone else?
I do have some more over here.
Okay.
How did you know that you wanted to be a writer?
Well, I feel like it started when I was 10 and I wrote Sabrina the Teenage Witch fan fiction. And yeah. And I presented it to my teacher as if it was my own. And she was like, "Oh, this is incredible." And she said, "When you're a published writer, you need to tell me." So I actually told her last year and she was very proud, which was nice.
I've always enjoyed writing. I was a very angsty child, so I had to get the emotions out somehow. I think I wrote my first story in like kindergarten, and it was about my first pair of rollerblades and how I persevered. But yeah, I've always done that. And I used to write terrible poetry, which they've burned now. But yeah.
Any questions? Another one? Okay.
So it's talking about how in Where Sleeping Girls Lie, it's like so many fully fledged characters and like how do you plan character development and like redemption in your stories?
It's a great question. So that's basically, should I repeat it? How I plan characters and like their redemption and just kind of how I like flesh them out. Basically, I start with the first draft where everyone's almost like just like a blank slate and like I just like write the story and let it happen. And then I start to think about why these characters are in the story and what they bring to the story individually. And I also dream about them as well. And so I think that in my like process of just working on it draft after draft, they become more and more like fully realized. With Ace of Spades, I was thinking a lot about the characters that needed to be in this story and how this was a type of story I was trying to tell that was going to need different perspectives on Blackness. And so I wanted to have two people who were both Black, but they brought different perspectives and ideas about Blackness and different worldviews for different reasons. And so, yeah, sometimes I start with characters that need to be in the story and sometimes they're just like working on the story and they get built because the story requires them to be built in order to feel like, you know, real. How about you?
Don't you love that part though? Like when you write the character and then you go back to edit and you're trying to make the edit and you're like, this doesn't feel true to the character. It's like they start speaking back. It's magic. I love that.
I find it so annoying because I'm like, why are you talking? It's my book.
Like, I want you to do this. But they're like, this isn't true to me. I would say I know people will say like, you know, just write the first draft and then you can go back and edit. Maritza and I will literally like, we'll write 3 lines and we're like, go back and edit. And then we write 3 lines and we go back and edit. And then there's like usually a point where we're like, we will never finish this if we keep doing this and then we continue. But we usually have an idea because we're writing together. We have to know, you know, where this character is starting and where they're ending up and what is like the essence of them, like why do they act like this. And sometimes we'll have a whole backstory that doesn't even go into the story or into the final book. It's just that you need to know the way that the character's mind works so that it makes sense when it's on the page.
Same actually, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
What is your, both of you, what's your approach to writing young adult books and stories specifically versus books for an adult audience? How do you approach it from a craft perspective?
Yes.
And how do you also approach it from an identity perspective as well?
So I've got a very mean Gen Z sister. And so I often run things past her and she tells me that's so weird and that's so like awful. And so that's one of the ways. Another thing is I'm often honoring my 16-year-old self's like favorite things. I kind of think back to what I was reading, what I loved. And so I'm often like thinking about her when I'm writing. And then generally when I was working on Where Sleeping Girls Lie, I was also talking to a lot of teen charities and looking at what teenagers today need from books. And one of the charities I worked with was called Survivors Trust. And they specifically look at how violence against women essentially is portrayed in the media and how it's reflected and how it can really impact young people. And so I'm often doing work beforehand to ensure that young people are reflected in a way that won't harm them.
Yeah. I read a lot of young adult. So I read a lot of young adult and I look at how, my peers in the space are approaching certain things. One thing that sticks out to me when writing for young adult is the voice. Like that character needs to, you can hear them, right? And I feel like sometimes when I'm reading adult novels, I'm like, this is too slow. It's not doing enough. Like why, the pacing is so it doesn't hit the same way. But I think when you're writing for young adults, and I just remember, again, very angsty at that age. And I think part of it is just like you're becoming who you are starting to be, right? You might be venturing out from the beliefs that you were given or raised into, and you're trying to grapple with that and understanding that even if the way that you view the world, the people you like, all of these things are different than what you might have been presented, it doesn't make you a bad person. And how even sometimes when people mean well, they'll still have not great consequences. And it's like really important for our characters to not be perfect. Elaine is very smart alecky. In one of the good ones, the sisters have various things like they're hiding their sexual identity from their family, which relate or like different things like that you just people grapple with these. And I want like when young people are reading the books, even though sometimes they could be like, okay, even though I'm not a boomer, but they're reading like, okay, boomer. But that the idea behind it can help them understand themselves a little bit better.
Alex, I would like to know when do you know that you need to write a book?
Oh. We're about to get spiritual up in here.
I'm gonna go first, actually.
Yeah. I mean, it's just the idea that won't stop tickling in the back of your mind, And when I speak with my sister about it, since we write together, it's when we bring the idea and then she has something, I say something, she says something, and it's just like that back and forth and it builds and builds and like, okay, we have a story here. And to me, that's what it is. It feels very like the character has something to say and it's my job to help facilitate that.
Similarly, yeah, I think that when you can't stop thinking about an idea, that often feels like it's time to write it. I feel like someone once said that writing feels like having a love affair with someone.
Yes.
And so I think that I've never had a love affair, I'm just saying. But basically, yes, for legal reasons. But I feel like writing should basically feel exciting and like you're doing something that is almost secret and like your thing and it's really like personal to you. And so when a story starts to feel like that, I'm like, I need to work on this. Read a lot and read a lot in the thing you're trying to write in, because that will tell you kind of what people are doing and how to subvert that or how to be in conversation with them. And another thing is to just try and finish something, even if it's bad, because once you finish something once, your brain knows you can do it again. So it's important.
Yes. I would say also to live your life. Live your life. If you get to a point and you get stuck on the page, step away. Sometimes going for a walk will help jog something, or you'll see someone speaking and you can't even hear what they're saying, but their facial expressions, you're like, well, I'm gonna use that in the book, So I would say read and then also just observe. There's so much happening around us. People keep talking crap about younger generations and being on our phones and stuff. I count myself as younger generation, don't tell me nothing. And I think like it's a powerful tool for helping us like connect with the world. But every so often, just take a moment and like just watch people, like you'll notice you can just always pick up on people's energy even if they aren't saying something. That nervous energy, you're like, oh, I can take that in a book, or I can write that, or think about the conversations you're having with your friends and then just write. And don't be afraid, like write for yourself first, and then after that all the other good stuff comes.
That's a nice note to end on, I think, actually.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, guys, for coming.
Great question.
All right. Thank you so much. So what we're going to do is I'm going to have our wonderful authors take a break back there. We have tons of books upstairs. So if you haven't already picked up your book or didn't pre-order it, you can still make that happen. And if you could, in a moment, not in this very, very moment, but in a moment, fold your chair and just put it onto the side. One of our wonderful booksellers will come around and help us to get everything put away for our signing line, which will start right here, where our lovely lady in the sweater. And then we will get started in about maybe 5-10 minutes. We'll see. All right. Thank you all. And thank you, virtual audience. Bye.
Yeah, I'm like, I'm that person. I'll wait. Okay. Ooh, so much fun. Yeah. Do you mind if I give it back? I promise. You're fine. I have to go. Okay. 3, 2, 1. Ow. Oh my God, stop that. Okay, gotta get the other camera. Okay, hot. And then I'll do this to you, and I'll just get Faridah. Yes. And then there you go.